Hello and welcome to another video. As you all know, items are a very important part of Magic chess, and sometimes they could be the difference between winning and losing a game. And so in this video, I'm going to try my best to discuss how to pick the best build for every hero in Magic chess. Now, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to leave a comment, don't forget to share the video, don't forget to do all that stuff. And yeah, let's get started. So the first thing, I want to introduce this concept of item sets. If you've watched the previous video, you probably already have an idea of what this concept is. But yeah, we're going to use the concept of item sets to see how to build every hero. Now, the concept of item sets was obtained from the Claude step device. Now, the Claude step device is an item that gives the carrier two random items at the start of a round. That means that a set of two items, you see we have the two items here, we have the Claude step device, and then we have two items. Now this means that the important part of a set is just two items. You have two items in each set. That is what, based on the closed step device, I would say it's a closed step device theory that we have the item sets made of two items. Now the first set, because we have many sets, we have about 5 sets in the game. The first one is the attack speed set, which is made up of the Demon Hunter sword and the golden staff. Now, between the two of them, we have 10% attack speed on the Demon Hunter sword and 10% attack speed on the golden staff. And their passives for the Demon Hunter sword, basic attacks deal extra physical damage equal to 3% of the target's max HP, while the golden staff increases attack speed by 2.5% for 3 seconds. The effect steps up to 50 times, and each new stack refreshes the duration. Now, essentially, you have these two items that are focused on the basic attacks of a hero. So, and it also gives a lot of attack speed. The golden staff increases the attack speed as well, while the Demon Hunter sword allows the basic attack to actually do a lot of damage. So when you have these two items together, if you have a hero like Mia, a hero like Claude, a hero like Moskov, you have them. They are really able to use this set to the maximum power. Then we have the physical burst set. This includes the Berserker's Fury and the Blade of Despair. Between the two of them, you have 300 physical attack, that is 100 here and 200 here. And then you have the crit chance and the crit damage coming from the Berserker's Fury. The Blade of Despair also has the extra passive of instantly killing a target whose HP is lower than 10%. This set is essentially for those heroes who do not really rely on basic attacks, but are focused more on their skills. So a hero like Roger, a hero like Ling, whose skills have very high scaling. A hero like Hayabusa, whose scaling is very high on their skills. When you equip them with this burst set, their skills can do a lot of damage. It's also very good for gunner heroes as they rely on that crit chance. Now moving on, we have the tank set, which is it's for tanks. It's made up of the dominant size and the guardian helmet. Between the two of them, you have 5,000 HP, 1,500 from the dominant size and 3,500 from the guardian helmet. The guardian helmet also adds some sustain by giving the carrier this regen 1.5% of max HP per second, and the dominant size, it reduces the attack speed of nearby heroes while increasing the mana regen of the carrier. So it's very good for tank heroes who rely on their skills because they become very tanky. They can cast their skills much faster, and overall it's just a very good item for frontline heroes. Then moving on, we have the Mage sustain. This is a fairly new set, as the Blood Wings were just added. So we have this Mage sustain set. Between the two of them, we have 450 magic power. That's 250 from the concentrated energy and 200 from the Blood Wings. We also have 3000 max HP. So you can already see that the carriers of this set already get a lot of HP, which makes them a little more tanky. And then we have some spell vamp from the concentrated energy, and the Blood Wings gives a shield equal to 300% of maximum of magic power. That is, if we just have these two items alone, that's already 1350 shield every 15 seconds. Now that is very good for heroes like Esmeralda, or generally really any mage hero, because it adds that sustain, it adds that magic. They get a lot of magic power, so their skills will do a lot of damage. They also get a lot of HP. They also get the sustain. It's a very good set for any mage hero in the game right now. And finally, we have the survival set. This is made up of the Winter Truncheon and the Immortality. Now this set is a funny one because it's not restricted to a particular class of heroes. It's not restricted to tanks or mages or physical heroes. It's just a set for survival. Now this set includes items that essentially grants your hero an extra life. You have the Winter Truncheon that negates, it allows it freezes the hero when the HP drops below a certain threshold, and the immortality resurrects the hero. So it's very good for those heroes that you want them to survive longer. A hero like Sun, because this set actually triggers on his clones. So you have the Winter Truncheon, you have the immortality. Sun's clones are just going to be so very annoying to face. Now, all the other items that annoy in any set, they are called secondary items. Those are the items that you will equip in the first slot. Now, this includes battle spells. You have Flicker, you have Inspire, you have Synergy Crystals, you have the Wrestler Crystal, Wormslayer Crystal, or whatever. Now, the essence of these secondary items is to amplify the effect of a set. Say, for example, you have a Starfall Blade equipped with the attack speed set. That is, you will have a lot of that. Increased attack speed will help amplify the Starfall Blade, or rather, the Starfall Blade will help give you some extra bonuses to the attack speed set. You have some other items like Revitalize. If you use Revitalize with the tank set, your tank is going to be much stronger. And then the other items are counter items. An item like the Glowing Wand is good for anti-heals. An item like the Sea Halberd as well is also good for anti-heals. Now, Enchanted Talisman is not in any set, because you see, not every hero that can use the Mage set can use the Mage Sustain set can use the Enchanted Talisman. Say, for example, Cyclops. Cyclops only has 25 mana. So you can't equip an Enchanted Talisman on him, because that would be, you can actually, but that would be a waste. But you have heroes like Kadita who have 125 mana. Those kind of heroes need the Enchanted Talisman in addition to the Mage Sustain set. But for the others, you can just have some other items. For Cyclops, generally you just have maybe Flicker on him. You can have a Glowing Wand on him. But yeah, that is just the essence of a secondary item in a set. They exist to amplify the effect of a set, and many of them are counter items. Now, let's go to the specific builds for all the heroes. Akai. Well, Akai is a tank, so of course your primary set is going to be tank. The secondary item, you could have Aegis, Revitalize, Blade Armor, Oracle. Just essentially all the tank items. That's just how you want to build Akai. If you're building Elementalist Kadia, you can also have the Elementalist Crystal on him. Alpha, his primary set is a tank, because Alpha is a frontline hero. He has a lot of regen. And the secondary items, for the secondary items, you want to pick those items that actually add physical attack, because his skill also scales with physical attack. So in addition to having that tank set, you also want to have some physical attack on Alpha, but just as a secondary item. It's not the primary set, it's just a secondary item. Now, Clint, his primary set is Burst, because you want his skill to do a lot of damage. So the primary set is going to be Burst, and then the secondary item, you can add more damage here with the Sea Halberd or the Hazard's Claws. Layla, her primary set is Burst. For me, the only secondary item I would ever use on Layla is Purify, because in order to really get the maximum effect of a Layla, you want to make sure that she will just stay at the back and not have to be worried about Franco's hooks or just crowd controls in general. You want Layla to just have that massive DPS. And this Martis also has this Burst set as his primary set. For the secondary items though, you want to pick Inspire. Inspire is pretty much the only one I would use, because you want to have that extra attack speed. Martis is not necessarily an attack speed hero, but you need to have these physical items to scale his skills higher. But you also want to add some attack speed so that he can regain mana faster. That is why the secondary items would cover for that error. And Inspire is a very good one actually, because in the mid game or even in the early game, Inspire would give you 20% attack speed, and in the placement stage you can have 30%. That is actually enough for any hero. So you can just have an Inspire, and then you just have the normal burst set. That would help Martis immensely. Now Mia, Purify, once again, secondary item Purify. There's no other one. There really is no other one for Mia. You can have Flicker as well for those who want to use it. You can have Hass's Claws, you can have Sea Halberd. But the primary set for Mia, of course, is attack speed. The Demon Hunter Sword, the Golden Staff. We've all seen how this works on Mia. She is probably the most destructive 1 gold hero in the game because of this set. Valor, his primary set is just Mage Sustain. Secondary items, of course, Valor as the Fire Lord, Glowing Wand, you can have Purify, you can also have Inspire. And as a mage, you can also have some feline. You can also have the Feline Blade for extra HP, extra attack, and you also get that passive. So Valor is Mage Sustain. Zask, his primary set is attack speed, of course, because his spawn, the damage of his spawn does not scale with anything. It's a fixed amount. So you just want him to drop more spawn. So his primary set is attack speed. However, his secondary item, you want to have Enchanted Talisman on him so that he can, drop his first spawn quicker. And if that, doesn't really work for you, you can just go full damage and just maybe add Inspire. You can have Purify. I think I would prefer Purify as well for Zas, so that you can just have him at the back, summoning things. And there, so that should be all the 1 gold heroes. Now we move on to the 2 gold heroes, starting with Cho. Cho, his primary set is Burst, because his skill scales very, very well with physical attack. So you just want to have that as the primary set, the burst set for Cho. And the secondary item, I personally love Archer Cho anytime I'm playing with Archer Prince. I just love having my Archer Crystal on Cho. Flicker works very well too, and just like with Martis, you can have the Hellcutt's Curse. All these heroes who have very nice scaling on their skills, you can just have Inspire to cover the attack speed gap. That's why I love having attack speed, either attack speed items as the secondary item. For Cyclops, like I was saying when I was explaining the Mage Sustain build, Cyclops is one of those heroes that you cannot just use an Enchanted Talisman on him, because that's a waste. He has just 25 mana. So for secondary items, you just want Glowing Wand. You can have the Elementalist Crystal if you are playing with a Saber Elementalist or Mage Elementalist. You can also have Purify as your battle spell, or Flicker, whichever one you want. Eudora is one of those ones that can actually use the Enchanted Talisman in her Mage Sustain set. So for Eudora, Mage Sustain is the primary set, and the secondary items, Enchanted Talisman, Feline Blade. Regardless of if you are playing it with Nature Spirit or as Elementalist, you want to have this build for your Eudora. Now for Faramis, the primary set, Mage Sustain as well. Secondary items, Enchanted Talisman is very, very important for Faramis. And then in the other items, you can have maybe Flicker, maybe a Purify. Yeah, I don't think Purify is okay, but Enchanted Talisman is the most important one. And then moving to Franco. Franco, his primary set is Tank, of course. And his secondary items, you want to have Revitalize. You can have Jawhead's Ejector. You can have Oracle, Bleed Armor. Essentially, any tank item you want in the game. And Tank Franco, personally, for me, is a very, very deadly thing. Because with this build, he's going to be hooking a lot of heroes. So your backline, if you're facing a Franco with this build, no hero is safe. They're just going to constantly get hooked. Now, Franco doesn't really use that much mana. He doesn't have that much mana. So like this, he's just going to continue. It's very annoying to face, believe me. And then we have Iritel, her primary set. I believe Iritel is one of those heroes that actually has 2 sets as her primary. Because her basic attacks, she does 3 basic attacks, which is 3 mana, which recovers her mana 3 times. So she doesn't particularly need that attack speed. You could go for the burst set where you have the Blade of Despair and the Berserker's Fury for Iritel. But if you want, you can also use that. So for Iritel, you can have the attack speed set. You can also have the burst set. She's not like the other marksmen that really need attack speed to function. You can use the burst set for her. Primary, secondary items, of course, Purify. I don't think there's any archer in this game that you can play without Purify. You need Purify or Flicker as your secondary item. And then you can have Hass's Claws for the extra heal, of course, and then Rose Gold Meteor. Kimi is a very special one. Her primary set is, but ideally, Kimi's primary set would be attack speed, so she can harness that Demon Hunter sword. However, she cannot use the Golden Staff, so she is not. While the Demon Hunter sword is a good item for her, the whole attack speed set does not work for her. So instead, a much better primary set for Kimi if you're playing with Wormslayer. Believe me, I think I mentioned it in my Wormslayer video. Anytime Kimi has the Wormslayer and Gunner synergies, and you now have this set on her, she's going to be very, very destructive, especially with that Berserker's Fury. She's going to do so much damage. And the secondary item you want, I usually prefer picking Purify so that my Kimi can be at the back. But if you have Hass's Claws, more lifesteal, if you have Starfall Blade, it's probably the best. Kimmy is probably the one who can trigger the Starfall Blade the best. Starfall Blade for the Kimmy. You can have Seahawk Blade as well for more penetration. But yeah, overall, this is just how you build Kimmy. Melissa, her secondary item is Aegis because by definition, Melissa needs to have some heroes around her so she can use Aegis very well. And the primary set, of course, attack speed. You can't really build Melissa any other way. If you want to build Melissa in a very funny way, you could build her as a tank. You could use the tank build on Melissa and put her in the front line with other heroes beside her. But her primary set is still attack speed because she's an archer. Of course, let's just she's an archer. Now Roger, his primary set is burst because Roger's scaling on his skill is insane. He does a lot of damage if you can get a Wormslayer crystal so that you can keep spamming that skill if he gets more kills and getting stacks. It's a very insane thing. So for me, the secondary items for Roger, primary set is burst, of course, and the secondary items flicker, inspire, Wormslayer crystal. Another set you can use for Roger is the tank set, especially for the gunners that don't really have a tank. You can use the tank set for Roger as well, although I personally just prefer the burst set. Now Saber, his primary set is tank. Saber's primary set is a tank set, but the secondary item, now this Saber is a very funny one because his main damage comes from this secondary item, this glowing wand. And then the primary set, if you have a tank Saber with a glowing wand, that is going to just know that your backline is, especially if he now has the Saber swordsman fire core, then you know that Saber is going to do a lot of damage. So yeah, this is my recommended build for Saber. Tank set as your primary set, and then glowing wand. Once you can get the glowing wand, it's okay. If you can get the bleed armor as well, which helps with stacking shot, but I personally prefer the glowing wand. Now Yin's primary set is burst because again his scaling, he's just like Cho. The scaling on his skill is insane. And he doesn't use that much mana, so he can spam the skills a lot. And to even help with that, you can just have the Elementalist Crystal. That's when you are playing with Elementalist Forsaken Lights. You can always just have your Elementalist Crystal on Yin. You also have Inspire. And yeah, Yin is going to be very deadly. So that should be all about the 2 gold heroes. Now we move to the 3 gold heroes. Starting with Aldous. Aldous has 2 sets. The one I prefer is tank set, because Aldous is going to keep getting stacks in a round. You want to capitalize, and he's going to keep getting stacks while fighting, which will increase his attack. What you want is for him to survive while he's attacking, and so the best set to do that is the tank set. The secondary item would be Inspire or Wormslayer Crystal. Wormslayer Crystal is very good when you're playing. When you're just playing with Aldous, you can have the Wormslayer Crystal, you can have the Astro Crystal, you can have a lot of crystals as your secondary item. You can also have Inspire. The other build for Aldous is the Burst build, which will increase it will help him from the earlier stages of a round. Unfortunately though, and it will also give him shield, but if the enemy has too much burst, then he might die before he reaches the maximum stack. So it's all a matter of what you actually want. So you can use the tank set for Aldous, you can also use the burst set for Aldous. For Atlas and Beleric, both of them use the same build, tank as their primary set, and the secondary items Revitalize, Aegis, any tank item. You have Oracle as well, Bleed Armor as well, and that's just for Atlas and Beleric. Now Dairoth is another funny one. You can have the tank set for Dairoth if you have the Prince. It's all a matter of do you have Prince or not. With Prince, you can use either the tank set or the attack speed set. Without Prince though, you might want to focus on the tank set. You can use either the tank set or the attack speed set. I just prefer the attack speed set because the Demon Hunters or the Golden Staff or Dairoth, very good. And anytime I'm playing Prince, I usually have the Archer Crystal, so I just drop that on Dairoth, so him and Moskov can just shoot from the back. And if you have Flicker as well, that is very good. Dairoth is very destructive when he has Flicker and he has the Prince synergy active. Now Esmeralda, her primary set is Mage Sustain. You can have Mage Sustain. You can also have tank for Esmeralda. You can either have Mage Sustain, you can have tank as well. If you have Mage Sustain, she gets a lot of vamp, she gets a lot of HP. She also gets more shield. While with tank, she just becomes tankier. She has a little more regen, and then but she doesn't do that much damage. That's just the one difference between the two sets. She doesn't do that much damage. And then for secondary items, you want Aegis, you want Inspire, Revitalize. You just want to make sure that your Esmeralda doesn't die. Or you could add more damage with Feline Blade, Glowing Wand. Although adding Glowing Wand is not really, because Esmeralda is just, she just attacks the people in front. You would be better off putting your Glowing Wand on people who can reach the backline. Now Freya primary sets attack speed, because Freya, in case you didn't know, Freya, when she uses her ultimates, her enhanced basic attacks can actually trigger attack speed effect. So you want to capitalize on that and use the attack speed set for Freya so that she can do, because the attack speed set actually has a lot of attack effects. A secondary item, Flicker, you can have the Gunner Crystal, you can have the Hazard's Claws, you can have Inspire, but a lot of the most recommended is Flicker for Freya. Now Kagura, her primary set is Mana Sustain. Is Mage Sustain, not Mana Sustain. Her primary set is Mage Sustain. The secondary item, of course, since Kagura is a Mystic hero, you want to have that Mystic Scroll as your first secondary item. You can have the Enchanted Talisman if you're not playing with Mystic. You can also have Flicker. For Karina, her primary set, of course, attack speed, as Karina relies on her passive, which is triggered by attack speed. Her primary set is attack speed. And for secondary items, Flicker, Inspire, Wormslayer Crystal is that is just how Karina is built. Lancelot, his primary set. You see, Lancelot is a very funny one. I'll start with the secondary item. His secondary item is Blade Armor, of course, because the Blade Armor can actually help trigger the Swordsman synergy much quicker. Lancelot, from experience, he has three different. He's probably the first hero that has three different sets. You can use the tank set for Lancelot, because he has the Swordsman synergy and the Wormslayer. Or the tank set was actually better in the last meta when they had invincibility. Now that they just get damage reduction and they don't switch targets, the tank set might actually fall off. So you want to have the burst set for Lancelot, because his skill also scales very well. And you can also have attack speed, since you have the Demon Hunter sword, you have the Golden Staff. It works very well for Lancelot and swordsmen in general. Now Luoyi, her primary set is Mana Sustain, Mage Sustain, not Mana Sustain. Her primary set is Mage Sustain. Secondary items, you can have Inspire, you can have Purify, you can have Glowing Wand for Luoyi. Now for Masha, her primary set is Tank. Secondary items, Revitalize, Inspire, Oracle. For Popol and Koopa, his primary set, of course, Attack Speed. And for secondary items, you want to have Mystic Scroll, you want to have Flicker, Inspire, all that stuff. For 1-1, of course, the primary set is attack speed, as a 1-1 should be. Secondary items are Flicker. Secondary items are Flicker and Inspire. You can also have Purify, and you can even have the Wrestler Crystal if you want. For Xavier, his primary set, of course, Mage Sustain. Secondary items, Enchanted Talisman, Purify, Mage Crystal, whatever. Now we go to the 4 gold heroes. For Aurora, her primary set is Mage Sustain. Secondary items, you shouldn't use an Enchanted Talisman on Aurora, because she's a Northern Vale hero. You know she gets full mana, so you don't have to use an Enchanted Talisman on Aurora. You can just use the Glowing One. For Badang, his primary set, of course, attack speed, so you can, because his ultimate triggers attack speed effects. For secondary items, you can just have Revitalize or Aegis. For Claude, now Claude, of course, we all know Claude. Primary set is attack speed, that's just all you want. Secondary items, Inspire, Wrestler Crystal, Purify. You can have the Wormslayer Crystal as well, in addition, or just the Wrestler Crystal. Yeah. And for Estes, of course, his primary set as a Guardian is a tank. You want to have the Estes with the Mage Sustain build might have actually been nice. It's just that the concentrated energy is just going to go to waste. So the best thing is just to build him as a tank, but then have the Enchanted Talisman as his secondary item. And then we move to Hayabusa. His primary set, of course, Burst, as Hayabusa has, one of the most insane scalings in the game. You want to have more burst items for that. Secondary item, of course, Mystic Scroll, as Hayabusa is a Mystic hyper carry. You can also have Inspire as well. For Johnson has the same build as Saber. Primary set is Tank, and the secondary item you want to have Glowing Wand or Revitalize. Johnson with the Glowing Wand does a lot of damage, especially in the early stages of the round when he uses his ultimate. You can also use Revitalize, Oracle, Blade Armor, all these other tank items to help Johnson do more damage. We now move to Julian. Julian's primary set, Mage Sustain, of course. And secondary item, Enchanted Talisman. You can have Flicker, you can have Revitalize. You can also build Julian Tank actually, but you want to have that Enchanted Talisman as the secondary item. Then we move to Kadita, of course. Kadita, same build, Mage Sustain, Enchanted Talisman, or Flicker. And yeah, that's just because Kadita is Mage Hypercarry. Moskov, of course, attack speed. The secondary item you want Inspire or Wrestler Crystal. I think those are the only ways. You usually use Moskov as with Wrestler, so you can have Wrestler Crystal. And Vexana, when you play Vexana with Necro Keep, your secondary item doesn't have to be Enchanted Talisman. You can use something else. But when you don't, you can have the Enchanted Talisman when you're playing maybe with Summoner alone, because Necro Keep is not really that much popular anymore. It's just anytime Vexana is in the game, it's just as a summoner. So that is why I actually recommend using the Enchanted Talisman. When you are using Necro Keep, you do not have to use the Enchanted Talisman. Now Zilong, primary set, attack speed, of course. And secondary items, Inspire or Archer Crystal or Hazard's Claws. But most of the time when you see Zilong, it's usually as Acadia Archer. And you'd have the Archer Crystal. So of course, Archer Zilong with the attack speed set. Now we go to the 5 gold heroes, and that is where the video will come to an end. Bane, his primary set is tank, because Bane's ultimate, you cannot increase it, it just scales 99% of the enemy's max HP. You want to make sure Bane is a tank so that if somehow they manage to survive, he can still cast his ultimate again and deal the remaining 99% of max HP damage. And Bane doesn't, since the ultimate does not scale with anything, it's a fixed damage, you don't really have to build him anything else, just build him as your tank. Now Hanabi, her primary set, of course, attack speed, so she can just do a lot of damage. And secondary item, Purify. You want to have Purify for Hanabi because Hanabi does not have any defense mechanisms. You just want to have Purify for Hanabi. Now Leomord, his primary set is Burst. His secondary item is not Purify. Is not the secondary item for Leomord, please. You can have Flicker, you can have Inspire, you can have Revitalize, but not Purify. Purify would be better put on somebody else. So yeah, just Leomord, his secondary items really can have Flicker or Inspire or whatever crystal you want to put on him. Now Ling, his primary set, of course, Burst, as Ling does a lot of damage. His secondary item, Blade Armor, to help stack his swordsman synergy much faster and maybe give him some extra some defense. You can also use the attack speed set for Ling so that you can have that Demon Hunter sword, that golden staff. You can also use the tank set for Ling because so you can have Ling casting his ultimate a lot, because Ling has a very good ultimate. You can also use the survival set on Ling, because anytime if you have the Wormslayer synergy, especially, you can use the survival set on Ling so that Ling can just you can pull a lot of clutches. When Ling has that survival set, he can clutch a lot of games. At least before Winter Truncheon will activate, he will use his skill once. If somehow he doesn't get any kills, the Winter Truncheon will save him. He can cast the skill again. If somehow they still survive, he has immortality, he will cast the skill again. And all the while, he has more chances to trigger the Wormslayer's energy. So Ling is one of those heroes that can use every build except the Mage build, of course. But Ling can use every build. That just shows how broken Ling is. Minotaur, tank set, of course. Secondary item, Revitalized. You can also use sustain build for Mino, and the survival set for Mino, so that you can cast, because his ultimate has one of the biggest ranges in the game. So you just put Mino in the center and just have him, cast his skills as many times as possible. And finally, Sun. Sun's primary set is survival. You just want his clones to be as annoying as possible. So his primary set is the survival set. And the secondary item, Rose Gold Meteor, Aegis, Revitalize, just anything to make sure that those Sun clones are very, very oppressive. Now, before we go, here's some tips for the picking of the items. You just have to put, building a set in the game in a real match is very difficult actually. So you just want to, that you can just put physical items on, on your physical heroes. If you get any physical item, because in the fate boxes and the creep defense rounds, you cannot really influence what you get. There are sometimes where you will need to pick some counter items over a core item, because of the state of the game. So while you're trying to build sets, you should also just know how to pick items. Just when you get physical items, you put them on a physical hero. When you get magic items, you just put them on mage heroes, and when you get defense items, you just put them on tanks. If you can get many items and you have sets complete, you can try to build sets. But when you don't have sets, you can just build normally. Just put physical items on physical heroes, magic items on mage heroes, and for defense items on tanks. Now, when you have many heroes in a team that use the same sets, you have to prioritize, of course. Like if you are playing Nature Spirit, you have Eudora and Kadita, both of them use the mage sustain build. You have to, of course, you prioritize whichever one you want to prioritize. The same thing for Atlas and Belleric, both of them use the tank set, so you have to pick whichever one you want. When you're playing Archer, essentially all archers use the attack speed set, so you have to pick the one that, okay, this is the one that is going to carry me, this is where my set is going to be. And in an ideal game, you would have 2 sets complete. You can have a tank set for your tank, and either a burst set or an attack speed set or a mage sustain set for whoever is at the back. And yeah, that is just how to pick. That's just the tips I have for picking items. So yeah, that is all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.